What do you call two witches living in a haunted house? Broommates. Whoa. Welcome. I am Count Frightculous, and I will be your guide into the chilling, spooky scariness of the world, and maybe even perhaps the universe. But for now, our journey is taking us down the road of scary stories found in vintage, old, ancient, scary books. Some people refer to them as comics, horror comics to be exact, but for us they're very scary book stories. Maybe, perhaps, we're going to review them and you can decide. We get our scary book stories from none other than the Grim Picker. And I have to warn you, never deny the choice of the Grim Picker. Once the decision is made, it must not be undone. And there he is now. Let's find out what the scary book story will be now. The scary story for today comes from this one, The Secrets of Haunted House. Ooh, that's very spooky. And even here at the top, it says, we defy you to unlock the shattering secrets of Haunted House. Oh my goodness, here we go. Let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time dilly-dallying into the frolicking ways of, wasting time. We want to know, is this book scary or not? And now we're going to find out. Let's go. And the first story is titled, The Manner of Execution. And it starts out, we see a man, and he's there. He's the executioner, wearing the hood over his face so no one knows. Because back then, when they did the executions, they didn't want to reveal the person who was doing it. So the man is there standing with his hood, and he's committing the executions one by one. People are lining up and having their head chopped off by the guillotine. And then he notices that the woman who comes up, she's blonde, and he says, wait a minute, I recognize this woman. That looks like my wife, Catherine. And so he's very distraught, and he's thinking, it can't be. Why would my wife be here? And he's very confused, but she makes no attention to him, so he just passes it off. He says, maybe that's not really her. I can't believe it would be her. There's no way I would want to put my own wife to death. There's no reason for her to be here anyway. So, and everyone's yelling at him, you better do it, or we're going to put you in the guillotine. So he says, I must do it. I just hope and pray this cannot be my wife. I won't believe it. So he does. He cuts her head off with the guillotine. Everyone cheers. And then he's very distraught though. He's like, this is just very crazy. I can't believe that this woman looks so much like my wife. So he goes home. And as he goes home, he's looking for his wife, and he can't find her. He's like, where's my wife? Why isn't she here? She should have already been here. Well, my friend, you just cut her head off. Think about it. Put two and two together. My wife is always at home when I get here, and she's not today, and I just cut off a woman's head who looked like my wife. Ta-da! Case closed. But anyway, he's looking around, he finds a note, and the note is from his wife saying, I know you are the town executioner. I cannot live with myself knowing that this is your job. Because see, it was a secret from everyone, even his wife. No one knew he was the town executioner, but she found out, and she said, I can't live with myself. I'm going to go to the guillotine as well, and so that's why. But the funny thing is, you would think she would have said something when she came up, and he was kind of looking at her, so she knew who he was. He thought he knew who she was, but she wouldn't acknowledge him. So he cut her head off anyway, right? So it's weird. You'd think she would have at least said, you SOB, but maybe she thought if he knew that it really was her, but she didn't try to disguise herself. He could clearly see it's her, and yet he did it anyway. It's almost like, I wonder if she thought, maybe I'll test him. Does he really love me? Will he chop my head off knowing that I'm standing here before him? Or you might have thought she could have been very upset that she would say, you don't recognize your own wife? I'm standing right here in front of you and you don't say anything? So it's very confusing. I mean, the fact, why wouldn't she just leave town, divorce him, go away, right? I mean, there's a lot of other options than just saying, I'm going to have my own husband cut my head off because I hate his secret job of town executioner. Makes no sense. It's not scary. That's kind of frightculous, actually. It's just ridiculous. So anyway, he's very distraught. He realizes that the only person who knows he's the town executioner is the magistrate, the man in charge of the town, the mayor, you could say. And so he goes and confronts him. And the magistrate says, yes, I did tell her that you were the executioner. But you find out that the two of them know each other, and the magistrate took his revenge on this man. His man is Antoine the Stack. And so as a boy, they were competing, and he got the best grades. He got the scholarship to go to this university, so this man was very upset. So he bribed his way into becoming in charge of the town just so he could figure out a way to get revenge on the Stack. So he did, because he's like, if you ever get in trouble, I will be there and you will go to jail and I will get my revenge. So he does get caught. Well, his wife, the Stack, his wife gets sick, and he's like, I have to do something for my wife. I can't let her be starving as she's ill. So he goes and steals some food from some, dispensary, and he gets caught. And then the guy's like, okay, we're going to put you to death, but I'll let you go if you'll take the job as the town executioner. So he's forced to do it, even though he doesn't want to. So of course the magistrate tells the man's wife, Catherine, hey, your husband is actually the town executioner. Now you'd think the wife would just confront him and say, hey, are you the town executioner? I heard you were the town executioner, right? I mean, you're just taking his word for it, and then you say, you know what, I can't live with myself, I'm going to die, right? I'm going to put myself in the guillotine itself. She could have committed suicide. She could have just taken some poison or something. No, it's very odd, very strange. We don't get the backstory. We don't know what kind of woman Catherine is, but obviously she's a bit loopy herself, right? So anyway, he gets so angry that he tries to choke the magistrate. Well, now the magistrate says, you now will be put to death for attacking me. He takes him, and yes, the executioner now gets his head cut off. And so the magistrate now is very pleased with himself. Well, I exacted revenge. It only took me, 20 years or however long time it took to get his revenge. You think he could have found a different way to get revenge rather than becoming the magistrate just so he could try to catch this man and make him the town executioner? Just so he would end up cutting the wife's head off, because the magistrate was going after the girl too, and the Stack, the man here, the executioner, was the one that won the wife, Catherine. And so the magistrate was very angry. You could tell all through their life as boys, they were competing, and the Stack, he was the one that always won. He won the scholarship to the university, he won the girl's hand that they were both going after, and so the magistrate, very angry. He's Tafo, his name was Tafo, Pierre Tafo. He became the magistrate, bribed his way, snaked his way, slinked his way into power so he could exact revenge on this Stack, because I guess he thought that's the only way he could get revenge, because the Stack beat him in everything else. But if I have more power than him, then I can crush him with revenge. And he did, because then as he choked the magistrate, right? So then the magistrate put him to death with the guillotine. He's very pleased with himself. But all of a sudden, this makes no sense, a body comes out of the grave and goes to the magistrate and grabs him and drags him to the guillotine. And Tapo thinks it's a dream. He's like, this must be a very bad dream. I'm sure I'm going to wake up any moment, but he doesn't. His head is chopped off. And then later his assistant comes in, and says, well, today, is the day we're going to do more killings. I hope that are ready. But when he goes, the hat falls off and he doesn't, and his head is missing. The magistrate's head is missing. Pierre Tafo's head is gone. And he looks over and he's very scared. He's got a very frightened face. Oh my gosh, his head is missing. What happened? And he looks up and he sees where they had put the head of, Antoine de Stac head on the pole or something, I guess. In its place was Pierre Tafo's head. And he's like, oh, very scared. And that's the story. So it's a story of revenge. It's a story of an evil man who wants revenge, and the other man is put into a position where he feels he's trapped, and then he ends up killing his own wife in the guillotine, and then he's so angry, and then he himself gets put to the guillotine, and the person in power, the magistrate, Pierre Tafo, thinks I made my revenge, I'm super happy, the head is up there, I can look at it and gleefully rejoice that I've got my revenge, but in the end, he's the one who got it because the guy came back as a zombie, I guess, and killed him. It's really odd. The thing that doesn't make any sense is that he comes back from the dead to get his revenge on Pierre Tafo, but we don't know why. I mean, just because of the hatred he had into him that brought him back to life as a zombie so he could kill Pierre Tafo. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand, right? It doesn't really, it just worked out for the story, because if he had killed Catherine, he got his revenge on the Stack, and then that's it. If the bad guy would have won. So they had to have some way to have him get it in the end, because, he's actually the bad guy, and that's it. It's very odd. It wrapped up really quick. You get this whole tragic story going on, and then he's a zombie and he gets his revenge in the end. Why? I don't understand. I'm very confused. It's not really scary when you're very confused going, well, okay, I get it that he came back to life, but what brought him back to life? Was there some talisman? Was there something? Was there an ancient spell that would bring him back to life because he was so evil? Did the devil have a hand in this? We could have seen something. I mean, it'd almost be like if Pierre Tafo had made a pact with the devil or something, and then the devil, because he always twists and turns it, he always turns the tables on you, because he got his revenge on Antoine de Stac, then Pierre Tafo ends up getting it in the end because the devil lets him come back from the dead to kill him, right? I mean, it's just, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, but you just don't understand why the zombie comes out of nowhere. It's kind of weird, and it's just kind of quick to end the story. Like, hey, we have to have some way to end this, let him come back and cut his head off in the end, right? I don't know. It's not very scary to me. Sorry if I ruined it for you by making all those analyses for that story. Now it is time to move on to the next story. Okay, I'm okay, don't worry. And so now it's time for the next story. And the next story is called An Eye for Murder. And it's about a glass eye. The whole thing revolves around a glass eye. The first one was these two women. She found the glass eye and she's like, oh, it's so cool. I'm going to make a necklace out of it. And she wears the necklace, and she's riding her horse, and the necklace gets caught on a branch and she dies. She hangs from the branch. Okay, I got to stop right there. First of all, who finds a glass eye and says, ooh, I want to wear that around my neck like a jewelry? I mean, it's like, what are you going to do next? Take somebody's, wooden teeth and make a bracelet out of it, or take somebody's wooden prosthetic leg and, make an umbrella stand out of it or something? I mean, who takes a body part, I mean, it's a glass eye, I get it, but turns that into jewelry? I mean, unless you're Satan worshiper or something weird, maybe, but that doesn't make sense. Right away I was like, who's going to wear that as a necklace? Unless you're some kind of psycho, And so anyway, the glass eye, the next person to get the glass eye is a sharpshooter, and he likes the glass eye so much. Here we go, very weird again. He takes the glass eye and says, I'm going to attach it to my rifle. Why would you put the glass eye on your rifle? You think that would somehow hinder you being able to use it. Wouldn't you think? Well, it does. He's shooting and the light reflects off the glass eye into his eye and he misses his target and he shoots his assistant. So that's the second one. And so the last person to have the eye is a clockmaker, right? You think this eye is evil eye, right? Evil eye. Well, he's missing an eye. Now again, I have to question, how does somebody that's working on fine instruments like clocks can do it with only one eye? I thought two eyes gave you a better depth perception, and when you lose one eye and you only have one eye, your depth perception is a bit off. So how is he really going to work on these fine clock making instruments? But I guess when you see them, right, they're always put the one little thing and then they're only looking to, or no, that's the jewelry guy looking at the jewelry. He only has like the one magnified eye. So I guess he could do that. I wonder if that's how he lost his eye. He poked his eye out trying to look to work on the fine instruments of the watch. He went down too fast and poked my eye out, but anyway, so he gets the glass eye, all right, and he puts the eye in, and so he's like, oh, I don't have to wear the eye patch anymore. My question is, would you want the guy wearing an eye patch to work on your very expensive watch or clock because he's a clockmaker? I don't know. So he goes to the big clock tower and he's like, well, while Fred is gone, I'll work on the clock. Well, Fred comes back around midnight and says, oh, it's time for me to start the clock again. And he's like, no, don't start the clock. Fred, stop. But then it's too late. The clock is already going. And Fred thinks, oh my gosh, I killed Silas. He's dead. He must have been crushed in the gears. But no, he appears all of a sudden. He's like, how did you get out? He's like, well, you'll never believe it. I threw something in there to muck up the works. What was it? His glass eye. Wow, that's amazing, right? But you'd have to think, this is a giant clock with giant gears. These gears are very powerful. They have to turn this big metal thing. How is a small little glass eye going to jam the gears enough that he won't get crushed? I would think the glass would instantly be just shattered into a million pieces as soon as the gear got into it, but I don't know, it wouldn't have made a very good story, would it? So anyway, the eye for murder, 2 people were murdered, which they were kind of asking for it. I mean, you made a necklace out of a glass eye, that's very sadistic, and then the other guy's attaching it to his rifle. Of course, the glass can glare light into his eyes, but the third guy, which he takes a random glass eye, just finds it, hey, this fits perfectly into my face. I'm going to use it into my eye socket. Very crazy. It's a very, very frightculous story. I mean, very, 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 very crazy. And so the last story in here is called To Bug You to Death. I hope I'm not bugging you to death with these frightculous stories, but anyway, it's a very quick one. Let's get right into it. So these people are out and they're camping in the wilderness. I mean, you see the picture there. They almost look like they're wrapped up and they can't even move. They almost look like they're in, I don't know, coffins or something, like they've been tied down. I mean, it's very interesting way they depicted that, them sitting there. But you see a bug buzzing in and the bug buzzes, and he's kind of glowing. The little bug looks like a glow bug to me, or maybe to me, I think he may be a radioactive bug because he's glowing. But he goes and he flies up into the man's nose, and the man wakes up screaming, ah! Right? And he's like, what's wrong? He's like, I don't know, my head, I have a sharp pain in my head. And they can't figure it out. And he goes to the hospital and he's so much in pain, constantly in pain. Oh, it's burning a hole in my head. And you can't figure it out. You would think they would just take a quick x-ray or something, but no, all the time. And then all of a sudden, one day, a bug, just the little fly thing, flies out of his ear. And the doctor's like, oh, wait a minute, what's that? And he says, look, there's the answer flying out of his ear. Yes. Oh, hey, a fly. And the nurse is like, oh, I saw it too. Where did it go? And the doctor's like, oh, who cares? It was a 1 in a million fluke. He'll be fine now. The fly is gone. And so, but the man wakes up and he's like, oh, he's a zombie. And they go, that's very strange. What happened to him? Now he's just like a vegetable. And they look at the x-ray. Finally, they look at the x-ray after much time, and they realize that half his brain has been eaten. So that little bug apparently ate half the man's brain. Now, I have to question this. A little fly or bug, whatever radioactive crazy insect this was out in the jungle, ate half his brain. Now, how did he eat half the brain? Like, it's crazy. You think as soon as he started eating any part of it, the man would have died. But I guess, they do lobotomies and things like that. So you can lose part of your brain and still be alive. This man lost so much that he's now just a vegetable. But the question is, as soon as you found that out, you'd be like, oh my gosh, find that fly. Because the fly now is in the hospital flying around and he just ate half this man's brain. You think that they would immediately be like, okay, we've got to find that fly, lock the hospital down or whatever, but they don't say anything about it. It's just like, oh well, something must have been wrong with the x-ray machinery. No, nurse, this explains his condition, a coma from which he'll never awaken, because that strange insect chewed away a piece of his brain. And that's it. They don't say anything. You would think the last thing should be, let's go find that fly. We've got to get that insect out of here. It's eating brains. It's a zombie insect, is it not, right? I would be freaking out if I was the doctor or the nurse. I'd be like, I retire, I'm going home. I would be wearing, those beekeeper hats with the nets or a fish bowl or something. The fly flew into the man's nose, ate half his brain, turned him into a zombie. The doctor's like, it's okay. That fly, 1 in a million chance. It's a fluke. No. But that's it. That's the book. That's the book of scary stories. And let's go to the official rating now. We always get an official rating from the Demon Baby on just how scary this is, because if anybody has the right credibility for scary stories, it's the Demon Baby. So let's go right now and find out. All right, Demon Baby. She is aware now, and she will give us the official rating for this book of scary stories titled Secrets of Haunted House. And there we go, we've got the Demon Baby. She's aware now, and she's going to give us some head spins, hopefully, or not, because I really didn't find any of this scary, except the last story with the fly, that freaked me out. Anyway, here we go, the Demon Baby with her head spins. We've got one head spin, there we go. We always get at least one head spin from the Demon Baby. And maybe, she's a doll. She doesn't have to worry about the fly going into her head to eat her brain. But anyway, there we go. We've got the two head spins for the scary stories. I wonder what she thought was scary, or maybe she's grading this on the amount of Frightculous that was in there. But 2 head spins nevertheless. Any more head spins, Demon Baby? That's it. 2 head spins. We seem to be at the threshold of 2 head spins. That's the mark. I don't know if we're ever going to see above 2 head spins ever again. We're going to have to find some of the scary stories that were not made during the comics code, right? We have to get the pre-code scary stories, or we're going to have to go find some European stories or some other country, because these books here just do not fulfill the Demon Baby's rating of what scary should be. How about you? What do you think? Do you think these scary stories are scary, or are they just frightculous? Or I have to say though, that the book, it did have some good artwork. It has some decent artwork. I like that they put a lot of background images in there. They really put details there. A lot of the new books you find now, if you're looking at comics, they leave out the backgrounds. It's usually just a few figures and a lot of talking, and that's it. This one, they actually put the time to put a lot of background imagery in there, really get a setting for the story itself. Even if the story is frightculous, we at least have a good setting there. We can at least feel we're a little bit in that time period, or we can feel like we're into the story, whether it's, again, frightculous or not. And so I will leave you for now, and next time I will see you. So until then, have a very safe and peaceful, yet scariness night time. Oh boy, I can't see anything. Okay, next time.